Hello and welcome to Miniatures Rundown. I'm Joshua and joined again by a friend of the show and AOS aficionado Kevin.
Hi.
And we just talked about the rest of this GHB.
Previous video right there.
Up there? Over there above your head?
Right here.
Yes,
yeah.
But we wanted to also talk about the endless spells.
Because a lot of them have gotten changes in this GHB.
And it's fitting for the GHB of Magic.
Right.
Because you're going to be able to cast more of these.
Yes.
So just a very brief go over before we talk about any of these. Just a reminder of what Primal Magic is.
Right.
In case you didn't watch that video or you don't know.
So Primal Magic is that basically both players will have access to extra dice in order to help them cast their spells. And unbind spells as well.
Very short version is that it's pretty easy to get 3d6 on a spell instead of just 2d6.
Right.
Keep that in mind.
It's actually even better than like just having a multi-d6 cast.
Because you get to choose after you see it.
Right.
So basically, all of these are easier to cast than they seem.
Right.
But also easier to unbind than they seem.
Right.
Because that will kind of influence what we talk about.
Right.
So let's get into it.
So I figure we'll just talk about the ones that have actually had changes.
Yeah, because the Horrorghast,
same as the previous book.
Still very good.
Yes. Oh, Horrorghast is incredible.
Horrorghast is incredible.
The Pendulum is still, it's middling.
Still not very good.
But because it's easier to cast, it might be more, like a lot of the spells that were kind of just middling before might be more viable now just because they're easier to cast.
This is true, but the flip side is it's also easier to cast the spells that are actually worth casting.
That's also, very true. Like I can't argue with that too much. So the first big change though is Chronomatic Cogs.
Which is a staple of wizard lists.
Right. They did not change the reroll charge aura that it had before, but what they did change is when you decrease the flow of time. So now, if you decrease the flow of time, you can get an extra cast to try and do a Arcane Bolt or Mystic Shield. Also, it subtracts hit rolls by one from missile weapons targeting wizards within that aura as well. So because they slow down time, so they can dodge easier. They're bullet timing.
Yeah, matrixing. Neo in a wizard's hat.
So that's a big change to it. Before it allowed you to reroll casts.
That is let's just not, sugarcoat it. That's a fairly substantial nerf to Cogs.
Yes, very big, yeah.
And you know what? I'm okay with it.
Yep, I'm okay with it too because it was something like that a wizard would take as an insurance policy to make sure that their spells always went off.
This is something that Mitchell and I joked about our last GHB review, like 2 years ago. Every single time they change Cogs, it's way too good, and then they nerf it.
Right.
Because usually it's reroll all spells, and they change it to reroll a spell, or reroll once. They have finally changed it so significantly that I don't think that will be a problem going forward.
I agree.
Unless they revert it next edition again.
It definitely has a kind of a more utility place. Like you put it somewhere where you plan on making some charges, and you want to protect the buff wizard that is also buffing the charging unit. Yep. That's kind of how I see Cogs fitting into the current situation in this book.
Because previously you never used Cog for charges.
No.
Ever. That was you never ever did that.
No. It was not good. I mean, rerolling spells is way better.
This is something you mentioned in their GHB review, that this GHB in general, the battle plans and everything about it, is encouraging interaction with your opponent.
Right.
Cogs did not encourage interaction. Cogs encourage you to sit back with an Umbral Spellportal in your little wizard castle and just go pew pew pew. This changes that. Right. Which I am in favor of. Cogs are dead, long live the Cogs. So Cogs are 50 points now. Yes. Which is down a little bit from 60?
Yes. Which I think fits with its new role and new function. I think that, rerolling charges is really strong.
Very.
But it wasn't used for that before, and I think this is it's going to be more of an aggressive piece.
And a functionally free Mystic Shield is also not bad. It's a +1 save to somebody within 12. Mystic Shield has a 12-inch range.
Wholly within 12,
yeah. So, and then also a Mystic Arcane Bolt.
Yeah, Arcane Bolt is more situational. Mystic Shield is almost always useful.
There are times when D3 Mortals just isn't bad.
Well, sure. And if you're using it, sniping that extra wound off of something or if you're going to send that wizard in to charge or something, it has uses. Yeah. It's just not as auto, I'm re-rolling all of my spells because I'm Nagash now.
Which it should not be.
Yeah.
So, good. Emerald Lifeswarm.
It's the same as it was previously.
Not very good.
Some lists really like it still.
Yeah, that's true.
Anything that has a lot of one wound models really likes Emerald Lifeswarm. The Geminids. Now, the Geminids of Ulgiahish are extremely good now.
Yes. So cast range of 6, or cast range of 8, value of 6. You set them wholly within 6 inches of each other.
Yeah. So they're always orbiting.
And wholly within range of the caster.
Right. So the Tendrils of Shadow and Light, they've been dinking with the spell since they've been released.
This is kind of like Cogs, where this has been changed constantly. The difference is until now, it's not really ever been good.
No, I don't think I've legitimately ever seen Geminids on the table before. Now, I think you will. If it moves over stuff, and at the end of its move, anything that ends it within an inch of, on a 2-up, that unit that was rolled for cannot receive commands until the next hero phase.
And it moves 8 inches and flies.
Yeah.
And they're 6 inches apart, so they both move 8 inches and fly.
Yeah.
Any models you passed across or that is within 1 inch of it.
Right.
So with 6 inches, it's fairly easy to finagle it to hit more than one unit.
I mean, because you can always move forward and back. You can always do all kinds of movement tricks to. I mean, and making a unit so it cannot receive commands can be backbreaking.
Which is why Horrorghast is so good.
Right.
So you know what this is? They figured out how to get people to take Horrorghast and decided to put it on another end of the spell too.
That's true.
Because they were like, oh, so that's what makes a spell decent.
Like, I play Bone Reapers. This is a spell I do not want to see.
No. There's nobody who wants to see this.
Right. I mean,
Null Myriad. Play them.
Yep,
so you can ignore it.
Right. That would be what I'd have to do. But if I'm playing, I play Morris Praetorians. So
sucks to suck then.
It does.
Get your Arcana out. How many points?
50.
Okay, so
that's very reasonable. Yeah.
That's real good for 50 points. Malevolent Maelstrom.
They still can't make people take this spell.
Nope. Wait for a year and they'll put a command point, anti-command point thing on it, and then you'll see this back.
It's just there's too many mechanics to make it good or reliable.
The Malevolent Maelstrom has a bunch of words that don't mean anything.
Right.
The sound and the fury, everything.
It eventually charges up to do mortal wounds to things that are around it,
and not very many.
Yeah. So the Prismatic Palisade, it kind of got toned down a little bit.
Yes.
Because because it used to be if you're within the aura from it grew turn by turn. But if you're within that aura, you could not make range attacks.
Right.
Now it's on a 3-up, you cannot make range attacks.
Right. Because this could be it had a range of 18. It still does.
Right.
It was very possible to drop this in the opponent's
gun line, or you put it somewhere where you anticipate your opponent going to shoot at you.
Yes.
And but so it's got a little bit of tone down. The Purple Sun is still the Prismatic Palisade, as far as its points cost, is 40 points. I think it was cheaper earlier.
It was.
So it got a little bit of a points upgrade without gaining anything. So that's fine. Yep. I don't have any problems with it. The Purple Sun is still the Purple Sun.
Sun.
The Purple Sun is still really good.
Yes.
You're going to see more of them because it's easier to cast now.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Casting value 8, that was always the hard part.
Right.
Now, though, it's much easier to get that 8 off,
right,
but also easier to unbind it.
Right. So, which is something I totally don't mind with this spell.
Nope.
Like, I think that if it's easier to get out, but also easier to get rid of, that kind of balances itself out.
Yes.
And because it is an extremely strong spell.
Yeah, D6 plus 6 mortal wounds against big things is kind of...
And just reducing save rolls.
Yeah, that's the bigger one, honestly.
I mean, that's, basically giving your stuff an extra rend is nothing to sneeze at. Quicksilver Swords have remained the same. They're still good.
Yep.
That
one's actually pretty decent because 12 dice. How many points is Quicksilver Swords?
Quicksilver Swords, I believe, is 40, but I'll double check.
And did the Purple Sun change at all?
The swords are 60. Purple Sun is still 80.
So the swords did go up in points.
Yeah.
Because they were very good for their points. Casting value 6, 12 dice, each 5 up as a mortal.
Right.
That's,
that ignores...
can't be negated.
Yeah, no negation.
Statistically, that's 4 mortal wounds. Which is 4 non-negatable mortal wounds can really ruin someone's day.
5 ups on 12 dice means that you could spike.
Yes, you could get less than 4, but you could also get 6 mortals.
Yeah.
That's why it went up 60 points.
Right.
At 60, I don't think I'm taking it.
Probably not, unless that's a big part of my army design is being able to launch that out.
If I don't have any other mortal wound source, because
right,
there are things in the game that really just can't be dealt with except mortals.
Right. Ravenek's Gnashing Jaws have remained the same. Still extremely powerful.
Still very good. Lots of mortals, very, very large distance of movement.
It's 70 points, which I think is appropriate for what it does.
Yep.
It's stronger against some armies than others. I play dwarves a lot. We hate this.
Yes.
It's not a very friendly spell for us. Soulsnare Shackles is also got a significant change.
Yes, because that was one that was also very, very, very good in very particular situations, like game-breakingly good in particular situations, and then useless loss for the rest of the time.
Right. At the start of each movement, at the start of movement phase, you roll a dice for every unit within 6 and subtract that result from the move characteristic
to a minimum of 0.
So you can go down to 0 movement with this, which is really good against things like dwarves.
And if it goes down to 0, D3 mortals.
Right.
Casting value of 7, range of 8.
So it's very close.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't move either. It's not predatory.
Right.
Because they're shackles.
Right.
That being said, if you could get this thing off and hit a block of fire slayers with this, then they can't move.
Right.
That sucks.
I mean, most of the time that's going to, at minimum, on average, reduce their movement to 1.
Yes. 3.5 is the average roll on a 6. It's 3 or 4 or whatever. So on an average 3 or even 0. That's but even let's say you hit elves with this and you roll 3.
Oh yeah, take that. Like I'm thinking of witch elves, for instance. Like the chance to take a witch elves from 6-inch movement down to 0 is, or even just 1 or 2.
Yeah, even down to 3. Like that's still really good.
Right.
So that's decent. Points.
The points for the shackles is 40 points. So that's very aggressively costed for that.
Yeah, that's really good.
The short range really makes the spell difficult to use, that being said.
Yes.
So I think that may be the one thing that kind of will keep this from seeing a lot of play, unless you have a trick to extend that range or get it somewhere.
Or a wizard who doesn't mind being there.
Right. Yeah. Suffocating Gravetide is the same. No one's going to take it.
Nope. The Burning Head is mostly the same?
No, the Burning Head's completely different.
Oh, nope, never mind.
So the Burning Head, you cast it, and when it moves, if it ends within an inch of an enemy model on a 2+, it attaches to that unit, and it does D3 on a 2+ from every turn, every movement phase forward. It does D3 mortal wounds, so it flies around the unit, just burninating things, and
until you dispel it.
Right.
And its casting value went up.
Yes.
Because it went up to a 6 now.
Yes, it used to be a 4. It was 4 or 5.
5.
Yeah,
it was a 5. It used to be really cheap, easy to cast disposable mortal wounds.
Right. So this now, is it's a dot that you put on.
Yeah. Oh my god. We're getting to MMO territory.
Yeah.
Now.
I cast Withering Demise on you. All right. But it's 30 points.
So very aggressively pointed.
Yes.
Again, some things are gonna hate that. Now it's at the end of each movement phase. So each movement phase.
Yes.
That includes yours.
Yes.
So your opponent can't dispel this until their next turn.
Well, so you get an opportunity to dispel an endless spell in each hero phase.
Right,
yeah.
But if you cast it, they don't get to
unless they initially fail to unbind it.
If they unbind it, that's different. But they won't have a chance to dispel it.
Until their turn, yeah.
So you're going to get at least 1 D3 mortal wounds off.
Right.
If your opponent somehow does not have the ability to dispel this, that is incredibly bad.
Yeah.
The thing is that your opponent will almost always dispel this.
Or at least try to.
At least try to. And on a 6, they're probably going to.
Well, especially with wild dice being in existence.
Yeah.
It's,
Now, Fire Slayers, they don't really like this.
Oh, we have priests.
They have priests.
Yeah.
So
we can do stuff about that. But that said, that does rob us of resources. That takes us place of a prayer.
Basically, what this spell really is D3 mortal wounds and take your opponent's dispel.
Right.
Which takes one of their casts.
Nobody wants this attached to their units.
Yeah.
And so Spellportal is the same. It's very strong.
Spellportal is the same, but its stock has gone down by virtue of everything else in this GHB.
I agree with that. It's easier to get rid of now.
Yes.
And the timing for how you get rid of spell portals means that they're harder to use.
Yes.
It's easier to get rid of. It's,
They only go off on a 5 now.
Right.
That's really low. So very easy to cast, but also really easy to get rid of.
Right.
You don't even need Primal to get rid of this.
No. You can just roll it. It's pretty easy.
So this Umbral is still going to be the domain of people like Croak or Teclis.
Right. That they have one spell that they really want to extend the range of and get it out there. That's the utility of this spell. I mean, they're still very good. Their points cost went down, I believe. I believe they're 80 points still.
Good.
So you're only going to see this in cases where this is a vital part of somebody's strategy.
Techless, Nagash, Croak.
Right.
Probably that's it.
Yeah.
Acid spray in cities. That's even a thing for the next 2 months.
Yeah. Soulscream Bridge had a small tweak.
Yes.
So
casting range 18, value 6.
So it's pretty easy. It has the same teleport mechanic as before, but the unit cannot receive commands until the start of that player's next hero phase. So big.
Yes, they've reduced the alpha strike potential of this by saying, okay, let's say I use my, given Cities of Sigmar, I use my bridge to launch my Iron Drakes forward.
Right.
No more +1 to hit.
Right.
Which is good. Anything that reduces that kind of non-counterplay alpha striking is good in my book.
Right, I agree with that.
Age of Sigmar is getting away from that more and more and more.
They're doing a very good job to keep that in check.
Yes.
I think this is a part of it, the Soulscream Bridge, because this was a big part of the Kharadron arsenal with Spell in a Bottle, because you could teleport a bunch of Thunderers forward, give them orders, and Thunderers, especially in their previous points incarnation, were
Thunderers went up in points, by the way.
Yeah. So in their previous incarnation, could receive orders, and also receive orders in the enemy's turn, and that made them really hard to deal with.
Yeah.
This resolves a lot of those issues, because not being able to receive orders means you can't all out defense, so you're going to be hit a lot harder.
Can't all out attack, can't all out defense.
Yeah.
Can't battle shock.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, absolutely. You can't auto pass morale. That's really strong. It's still a really good. I think it's still a really good piece, and its cost is still 80 points, which I think is appropriate for
what it
impact
does,
that it has on the game.
Launching someone 18 inches is pretty good.
Yeah, especially ranged units.
Yeah.
So I mean, especially with the change to Lookout Sir, being able to wanting to get within 12 of a unit that you want to snipe is going to be really impactful.
Yeah.
So this is a risk-reward scenario that's not just all reward.
Right. Shards of Valagarr.
Got a really big change.
Yes. All 3 of the Forbidden Power spell, or not Forbidden Power. What are these from again?
It is Forbidden.
Forbidden Power?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 3 Death's Endless spells, for lack of a better term. 4, because I guess Horrorgash is also one of these.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, they put that first. Fuck, it's the most important. They all got big changes. Or meaningful changes, that's
Yes. So these are also the casting value of 5. They used to have your movement if you could draw a line between the 2 of them, and now they've changed it completely. So all units are within 6 inches of any part, so it's a 2-part spell. They cannot be removed from the battlefield and set up again. So like Kharadron can't fly high, for instance,
right?
Or Stormcast can't teleport with their prayer.
Because units cannot be set up within 6 inches. So this creates a null zone of no droppy.
No droppy, no pick-uppy, no drop.
No. Yeah. The stuff can't, Skaven can't teleport out because they have,
the gnaw holes.
The gnaw holes.
Yep.
Stuff like that. You can't just peace out.
Yep.
No slime marboing here. That's very interesting because against some matchups, that's incredibly powerful.
Right.
How many points is it?
So the shards are, I think, they're only 40 points.
Yeah, that's cheap enough that this is one of those things where if those armies were incredibly present in your local meta or the meta, then this becomes a worthwhile investment. If you're seeing KO everywhere, because we were previously, because they were god tier,
right?
We'll see how the points nerfs work out. Hopefully that brings them into line a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you have a big problem with KO, setting up you can't drop within, if you've got your guys in the back,
right,
and then you cast this up here in this.
Well, and it only prevent the boat from being able to be placed within 6. It also prevents the guys from getting out within 6.
Right, because leaving a transport is also a setup move.
Right.
Summoning. Any kind of summoning for demons.
Corn's a big one to...
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember the language because it's been changed 42 different times, but I believe you were to wipe a unit of horrors in this that they wouldn't set up because that is also a setup move, I think?
No, it's added to the unit.
Is it added to the unit move? Ah, dang. I was hoping for the anti-horror tech.
Yeah. Nope, it's not anti-horror tech.
Next time.
But yeah, I mean, for that price, they're extremely strong.
Yes. If you have trouble with that kind of thing in your local scene, or if that's something that ruins your army's day.
I think it's a good thing to just have at that point, you can have them in your back pocket, and you wouldn't have to feel too bad about it not affecting your game.
Right. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do anything else.
Nope. The only thing is it's predatory, so it does move, and they're actually really chunky, so you can use them to kind of move block stuff.
And they're within 8 inches of each other, so you've got 8 inches and then 6 on either side.
Right.
So that is a 20-inch long ways, but then not this ways.
Right.
So this ways it's 12-inch. It's a 20 by 12-inch oval.
You can use it to protect your backfield.
Yes. And the nice thing is you can move it around reactively.
Beasts of Chaos really hate this.
Yeah.
Not that Beasts of Chaos need a whole lot to hurt them, but they are.
Are they back down now?
They're middling.
Okay.
You know, they're arguably where they probably should be, but
yeah, more fat middle.
Yeah. Luncheon.
Last but certainly not least, Lauchon. Is it Lauchon? The Soulseeker?
Lauchon.
I call him Luncheon the Cheeseseeker because his primary objective in life was for Thankful to cast him and then surf up.
Yep.
Thankful can no longer do that.
Yep, because there's a wound cap.
Wound cap of 9 or less. And then
the wizard suffers a mortal wound, but it still is allowed to make a normal move or run in the following movement phase. So what you would want to do with this model is, I'm not sure.
So if you need to get one of your Locust units somewhere, maybe not into combat, but like let's say you need to get a Locust unit to the other side, because a lot of the frostbite spells. The Hoarfrost spells have 12-inch range.
Right.
I can see using this to launch yourself into blizzard range.
That's true. Yeah, because this moves before you would cast your normal spells.
Yes, that was always the really nice thing about this.
Right.
Was that this moved before you'd cast your other spells.
Right.
So you would cast it, you'd launch yourself, and then you'd cast the rest of your spells.
Right.
And in Thankless Place, then you would commit war crimes with flamethrowers and then probably die.
Right.
That's gone. But I could see launching yourself into blizzard range.
Yes. Yeah, I can too.
I think Seraphon loved this.
Yes.
Because launching your skinks around your skink locusts around the board to get some different lines of sight.
For Croak.
Or for your other Slann.
Right.
For Croak. Who are I'm just
no, I know.
I'm just thinking for locusts,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think outside the Croak box. Trying to think outside the frog.
And honestly, that's fair since they changed how he interacts with the game. And
yes.
So,
Croak is no longer nearly as mandatory, and thank the old ones for that.
It really is.
As a Seraphon aficionado who's just getting into Seraphon, I was dreading having to buy that dang frog.
And anything that doesn't make a unit auto-take is generally good.
And non-interactive ability.
Right.
Because launching your skink forward at least gives them into punching range.
Right. Yeah, so...
how many points is it?
Luncheon is... Here he is. He's 50. So, I think that's a point level where you definitely... You're taking him because you have a plan for him.
Yeah, you're not just taking him on a whim.
To fill points.
You're taking him because it's like, okay, I'm going to want to use this to launch a skink forward to hit them with a blizzard.
Right.
Which...
Yeah.
I mean a skink... Now, unfortunately, there aren't any cheap skink wizards anymore.
Not anymore.
They're all a little pricey. But launching him forward and doing 46 mortal wounds...
might be worth the risk. It depends on, what's really cool about this is, we can't really say for a certainty, I can always do this and always get such results.
Right.
It's always going to be reliant on the game state.
That was always the problem with some endless spells.
Right.
You can always take Umbral Spellportal and always do this.
Right.
Skaven might not be able to use Thankful for that anymore, but they could use a Gracier.
Right.
Launch a Gracier forward.
That's a totally Skaven thing to do.
Yeah.
Just get him all hopped up on Warpstone and just convince him that, hey, go up there and just...
Go up there, cast Blizzard, and if you survive, you cast it again next turn.
So I'm really this is another positive, a big positive change.
Yeah, there are no negative changes in here.
Yeah.
Because last time they did this, we looked at Cogs and went, oh, so we're doing this again. Okay.
Right. Yeah. The bounce back with Cogs that classically is a part of that spell.
And now, hopefully, that is resolved.
Right. On the whole, I don't see. Now, time could prove this video to be wrong, but I don't see anything that's horrifically abusable.
No.
And that could change with things that come out in the I have a feeling that if there is going to be an incarnate that comes with the Dawnbringer books, which I'm almost certain there will be, that it's going to interact with magic in a really heavy way.
That's my guess as well, because that's kind of where the space we're playing in right
now. So it'd be interesting to see how that interacts with stuff. Like the previous one kind of
8 endless spells.
So maybe this one has a different interaction with endless spells. I don't know.
Spawns endless spells.
No, please no.
Yeah, I think the Horrorghast is still probably going to be the one you see the most.
It's almost always there's only one instance where the Horrorghast is not useful, and that's against Bone Reapers.
Right, because they don't care.
Yeah.
But he's so cheap that's still
right. And the big range, it moves fast. Being able and having, especially against armies that have small elite units, like I'm thinking of Stormcast, or I'm thinking of Ogres, or Iron Jaws if people are still running pigs. Like, especially with low bravery things.
I think they'll be running pigs this weekend, especially when we get Big Pig.
Yeah, Big Pig. Yeah,
because Big Pig is going to buff other pigs.
Almost certainly
dimes dollars. If that doesn't happen, I'll eat them on the book.
But I totally forgot about Big Pig, but I'm really excited for him.
Like, yeah, he was announced like 4 months ago, and they just haven't said anything since.
Like, I don't even play the army, but I'm excited to see Big Pig. I like that he has
sponsons.
I like that he has orc sponsons.
The guard player enemy is. That reminds me, I got a terrible conversion idea to run by you later. But
wonderful.
Yeah. Kevin, you want to see my notes? All right.
Are we done here?
So we'll stay tuned for Josh's conversion corner. Until next time.
That's not real. It's not real.
Oh, it is real.
All right. Thank you for watching.
See you next time.